Important notice: the information and/or products outlined in this program are designed to be used in conjunction with, not instead of, your doctor's program. If you have an illness, then seek a doctor's care. Do not use this information as a sole therapy against any disease or medical condition. The information contained in this program is not recommended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. For more information or to purchase the original 30-day program material, visit us at the30dayburn.com. Chapter 1. Each one of us walking the face of the earth is made up of an abundance of fat cells throughout their bodies. In fact, if you're a normal healthy adult with a typical body composition, you have approximately 30 billion of them. This is an astounding number when you think about it. Have you ever wondered why you need so many? Have you ever wondered what all those fat cells are for? Fat cells are genetically programmed. The reason is, those fat cells are built into our genetic makeup and they enable us to use stored energy when food supplies run low. This storage mechanism works exactly the same way today as it did over 10,000 years ago. However, these days, we find ourselves with an abundance of food in modern society, and we no longer need this built-in mechanism to store so much fat in order to survive. When you consume an excess of calories, your body goes right into storage mode for those anticipated hard times ahead. But those times never come, so your body simply hangs on to those extra calories in the form of fat. Conversely, when you eat fewer calories than your body demands, your cells will release this stored fat to maintain energy. It all looks good on paper, but as you will soon see, not all fat is the same. The location of fat deposits in your body. The location of fat deposits in our bodies will vary depending on each person's genetic makeup, nutritional intake, and level of activity. Men generally tend to store their fat in their midsection and chest. Women classically tend to store it much lower, around their hips, butt, thighs, and on the back of their arms. A full explanation of hormones as they relate to fat storage is beyond the scope of this small book, but for now I'll suffice to say that certain hormonal processes play a large part in determining body fat distribution. The prime factor in failing to lose fat. Many people who attempt to lose fat fail to take into account one major factor. It's a stumbling block to every dieter's long-term success. A vast majority of beginning dieters attack fat loss and fitness with great enthusiasm and determination in the beginning. They get initial positive results and feel great. Even so, they just can't ever seem to get rid of all the unwanted fat. They'll lose successfully for a time, but then ultimately find themselves at a sticking point just before all the fat is completely gone. This sticking point is known as a plateau, and this predictable phenomenon causes many people who were enjoying terrific success to lose their critical focus and enthusiasm and slide back into their old habits. When these old ways take over again, the fat comes back with a vengeance. This again is due to genetic programming of our fat cells. With each new time you attempt to lose body fat, it seems to take longer and demand more and more effort. Finding the solution to stubborn fat. So where can you find a real solution? The answer to that is simple. You must understand how your body's fat cells work and how to break through the plateau phenomenon to lose that last bit of unwanted fat, what I refer to as stubborn fat. I have worked with thousands of clients over the years, and I can say that the majority of them display a good amount of this stubborn fat. Science tells us this type of fat is actually hardwired into our basic survival system so as to be incredibly difficult to remove. It appears to stick with us no matter what we do, hence the term stubborn fat. Most popular diets and weight loss programs work to one degree or another in the beginning, but they never really confront this critical part of the fat loss cycle, removing the last bit of stubborn fat. Hormones and their role in stubborn fat. Difficult to remove fat deposits occur when your hormonal pathways break down. Also, your age plays a role in this process as well. It's no secret that fat increases with most people as you get older, largely due to lower metabolism and reduced activity levels. This you have limited control over, but there are still things that lead to stubborn fat accumulation that remain under your control. The choice to reject yo-yo dieting schemes is one of them. Losing weight with crash diets and then regaining it all again, referred to as rebounding, ultimately only increases the tenacity of stubborn fat in the long run. A decrease in exercise and activity level also compounds the stubborn fat problem for most as well. This is why people who go on crash diets that temporarily radically restrict calorie intake and refuse to adopt the habit of exercise on a regular basis often have the worst stubborn fat problems of all. Our ancient ancestors never had to deal with this problem. They were constantly on the move and engaged in physical labor as a necessary means of simply surviving, whereas these days, technological advances and modern convenience has allowed many of us to remain far more sedentary. Our food comes to us. We no longer need to go get it if we choose. Stubborn fat metabolizes very slowly, and it resists the hormonal processes that take place when the fat-burning process begins. When burning fat, the adrenal hormones, commonly known as noradrenaline and adrenaline, attach themselves to fat receptors. They basically crack them open so the fat inside can be used in the energy pathways. There are two types of receptors found in your fat cells. The first is alpha, the other beta. Beta receptors display higher activity and respond in conjunction with adrenal hormones. To lose fat, the adrenal hormones fire up and the body begins to convert fat to energy. In situations involving stubborn fat, this does not occur, so zero fat is lost. According to Ori Hofmeckler, author of The Warrior Diet, stubborn fat possesses a lower ratio of beta to alpha receptors. Therefore, adrenaline, which is your body's fat dissolver, is unable to make its way into the fat cells to open the door. Hofmeckler goes on to point out that, to make these matters worse, stubborn fat has more estrogen receptors which cause even more stubborn fat. If all this news doesn't sound bad enough, it gets worse. If you indulge in the typical Western diet and lead a sedentary lifestyle, you are setting yourself up for insulin sensitivity. If this happens, your fat tissue becomes even more incredibly resistant to your attempts to lose it, making it appear as you will be stuck in your fat suit forever. Why dieting alone doesn't work. Diets generally fail because most only look at the caloric reduction side of the equation. You must also understand the other variables in the equation, namely exercise and proper lifestyle. Ridding yourself of stubborn fat for a lifetime is not nearly as simple as just slashing calories and dieting. Stubborn fat results from a complex interplay of hormonal and biological processes, each of which are positively or negatively affected by how you eat, how you move, and the type of life you live. The critical question. Now that you have a basic understanding of why you have stubborn fat, the question is, how do you make personal changes that will bring positive results? That answer is coming up in Part 2.
This concludes your preview. A complete copy of this title is available for download at Amazon.com, Audible.com, or Apple iTunes.